The Nintendo Joycon, what we can do to make them more sustainable. So, what can be improved about this simple controller? Well, first of all, I think that we should make them easier to repair by making them easy to take apart. Kind of like how calculators have like a lid that slides off of the calculator that's like plastic and it just like goes into slots, I guess. Kind of a similar idea to that where it's just like a click or like a slide um, to take the top half apart from the bottom half so you can like open it up and access the inside instead of because currently what they have is they have screws that are really tiny and only factories I believe have these like tiny screwdrivers, so they're not really that easy to take apart right now and they're kind of inconvenient to take apart. So I feel like by making it just like a click or a slide to access the inside, it will make it easy to replace any damages that happen to whether that be the buttons or the inside stop working, things like that. I also believe that Nintendo could offer a better customer support in terms of like adding in more videos on how to repair your controllers, adding in like different ways to fix them if you need, because right now they don't really have much of that. And then also I feel like they could sell more parts, like to add more accessibility to things such as like buttons, because if a button gets stuck or broken, or if the Joy-Con breaks off, it's just like I feel like they need to sell those parts a bit more because that's how they can make money by not selling as many controllers, is by selling the parts individually. And if they make it easy to take apart and replace those parts, then I feel like it would be easy to make money off of that, and it'll just make it easier to um, save like the controller's lifespan instead of just replacing the whole controller fully. And then lastly, I feel like they need to make these more easily recyclable, especially because they're hard to take apart right now. Not many recycling plants can deal with them. So first of all, this is what the inside of a Nintendo Joy-Con looks like. So you've got on the in red we've got the side shell, front shell, and back shell. That's just like the plastic to hold this all together. Everything in the black is the buttons and the joystick and like all of the I guess components that you would be pressing or moving. In green is the battery, which there's two of them because there's two controllers in this photo. And then in blue is the motherboard, and in yellow is the button circuit board, which is I think different from the motherboard because as you can see there it has those like four slots for the four buttons. Um, but yeah, those are the components inside of a Joy-Con. And then the materials that it's made of matte plastic or ABC plastic, I think it's also called, for the outer shells. You've got rubber for the joysticks. There's the battery is a lithium ion polymer, which is a recyclable battery. And then there's metal for like the screws and a couple frame pieces. There's the motherboards and circuits that help run the whole thing. And then there's also the LED indicators, which on the sides of the thing on the sides of the controller will tell you like if it's on or not, essentially. And then on top of the picture, I put a couple other things because I didn't really. They're very specific things, so I don't know if I could find. It was kind of hard to find if they're recyclable. But you've got the Bluetooth communication module, the accelerometer and gyroscope sensors, HD rumble haptic feedback system, NFC reader for amiibos, which are figures that can be scanned on these controllers, and then an infrared depth sensor. So there's just like all these like neat features within the Joy-Con that I guess I didn't really think. I don't know if you can really recycle those. You probably can, but I don't know how to figure all that out. So, in terms of energy for producing these Joy-Cons, it takes the energy is very important because it takes resources to produce these controllers. So we want to try and minimize the amount of controllers that are being produced, especially because Nintendo's main goal or gimmick right now is that these Joy-Cons are not very well made, so they make so much money off of buying the people buying these over and over. I know personally, I think I have like 8 sets of these because they just keep on breaking and they're so hard to repair that it's just like easier to buy a new pair. So I feel like in order to minimize the amount of energy being put into producing these controllers, having them easy to disassemble, not only does it save on the metal from the screws, which is a rare resource, but it also cuts down on producing so many because it lets people take care of their controllers rather than just buying new ones every time something goes wrong. Because there's a lot of small things that could be fixed, but like not with how they're currently designed. So this will like boost the life cycle and decrease the energy needed for production is hopefully the goal with this idea. So their life sustainability, it could be so much better than it is currently. It would last so much longer before being thrown out or recycled if it was just easier to take apart and replace things like the buttons or the joystick or small components like that rather than just replacing the whole thing because it takes a lot of resources for like the motherboard and the circuit and stuff like that that aren't very common. Um, so throughout the butterfly cycle, Joy-Cons could easily be shared more because many people would have working Joy-Cons and could therefore share them. I know this is a problem when people come over to my house often, where I have to get them to bring their own controllers because like my Joy-Cons don't really work half the time, so it's just like always better to get your own, and that made us all like buy each our own separate controllers, and like it just made us have more controllers than we needed because the Joy-Cons don't work. But then again, they're necessary for some games, so it's not like you can't not have them. Um, but like with this idea, it just makes them easier to share between friends because they're actually like usable. Maintain, it makes it easier to take care of your controllers. It makes it easier to clean them if you need to, and it makes it easier to fix small problems like a stuck button where you just slide it open and then push out the button and it should be working from there. Reuse, when the Switch 2 is coming out soon, which is like Nintendo's next big console, I guess, that's coming out. So when that comes out, these controllers can easily be resold to others. Which before I feel like not many people would buy Joy-Cons because from like especially if they're used because they're so easily breakable. But if they're easy to take apart and repair, I feel like that'll increase the amount that they're reused and resold drastically. And then lastly, refurbish. It's just like so much easier to access parts, which leads to a much easier fix than before, rather than just replacing them or having to go somewhere special and pay a lot of money. And then if all of that doesn't work anymore, if the controller is completely unrepairable or unusable, then you could finally recycle it. So, what does that mean though to recycle it? Because maybe not everything in the controller is fully recyclable. Well, to see that, I tried going further into the plastic hard shell and seeing if that was recyclable. So the type of plastic they use is ABS plastic. I forget what that stands for, but it's some fancy thing. It's a common plastic found within gaming controllers because it's very strong and durable. It is recyclable, but there are many challenges to recycling this plastic. Well, first of all, most programs can't handle mixed electronics, at least municipal recycling programs. So you'd have to be able to get the plastic on its own, which is almost impossible with the current design. Um, and it's not super cost effective, again, with the current design and with the screws, to take these apart and take everything apart from the plastic. I don't believe they used any glue on the inside. There might be a bit of adhesive, but like not much on the inside of these Joy-Cons. Most stuff just pops out or pops back in. Um, and lastly, it's not very uh, effective to recycle this plastic because the market for recycled gaming plastic varies from time to time. Not many people are catching on. Well, sometimes there's like a lot of people catching on to that trend of using recycled gaming plastic for controllers, but then other times people are just making new plastic to use. So the market for that does vary quite a bit, and it's not too reliable. in terms of like reusing that plastic. Um, and lastly, Nintendo does offer some recycling programs, but they don't really market it very well. So it's like not very well known. So how Nintendo can improve by having the Joy-Con be able to slide apart instead of having to take apart all the screws and stuff. It just makes it easy removal of all of the components, which can make it so much easier to recycle and take apart all of the different pieces of the controller. They could use recycled plastic instead of ABS because there is like they could increase that market of recycled plastic by also using that for their controllers, which would really help the environment, I believe. They could educate the public on how to recycle their products, so they could have like a website online that says like where to recycle their products, or they could have videos that tell you how to take them apart before you recycle them, because you can't just really throw it out because the battery is also in the controller. So you have to properly dispose of the battery separately, and you have to properly dispose of the circuit boards separately, and then the plastic separately. So I feel like Nintendo could help educate that, whether that be via videos or like an instruction manual that comes with it or something. And lastly, they could promote their own recycling programs more, because I think they have a program right now where they take back controllers that aren't really working very well, and they'll take them apart and fix them and resell them. But it's not very popular, so I feel like they could promote that a lot more to increase their own money they make and also increase the lifespan of a lot of these Joy Cons. So yeah, that's my take on the Nintendo Joy-Con and how Nintendo can help the planet one or two controllers at a time. Thank you.